Hi, how is everyone on this fine springtime day? There seems to be a lot of new people around here. Hello, my name's Leon and welcome to the Nerd Lounge. We've been focusing a lot on manga videos recently, so I thought I would do a top 5 manga collecting tips from someone who collects manga. Now I've broken these down into 5 main tips, but they cover quite a few different topics. So what we're going to do is just talk about them one by one. Very quick note just before I start, make sure you use the links down in the description to Forbidden Planet, Right Stuff and Book Depository to buy yourself some manga and support me at the same time. Much love. So, tip number 1. Now this is the most important tip for anyone collecting anything really, but manga especially, and that's to make sure that you budget. Manga can get really expensive to collect. As you can see, there's quite a lot out there that you can buy. So keeping a budget every month will help you cap your spending. Make sure you don't get too involved in the hobby too quickly. And make sure that you don't max out some credit cards buying loads of books. What I tend to do is set aside some money each month that I know I can spend on manga. This could be £20, £50 or £100 depending what you're doing in your life. Obviously I have a mortgage so my spending is very low, but I tend to save up over a couple of months and then bang one big haul out, and then I can get kind of a lot of manga at the same time without spending any extra money. Now one aside to this budget is I think you should always have some money to the side to make sure that you can buy a massive or an amazing deal that you find on potentially any of the websites that pop up. You don't want to not have enough money to be able to purchase a whole series for half the price. So that's tip number 1. Make sure that you have a budget for your manga collection. Tip numero dos, and this actually ties directly into the budgeting, and this is getting the best value for money out of your manga collection. As you can see, there's lots of single volumes in my manga collection. I tend not to buy single volumes. The reason behind this is you can find lots of bundle deals and sales and box sets all around the internet, which means that instead of paying £10 per volume, you pay £100 for 20 volumes. It saves you money and it gets better value for money. You're starting to pay less per volume, and that's the best way to collect. There's only a very small amount of my manga that I've actually purchased in brick and mortar stores. The reason behind this is most of the time they're super expensive and you can find the manga cheaper elsewhere. However, you should support your local businesses, and if you do have a local manga store, make sure you pop in there every now and again and pick some manga up. In regards to collecting and making sure you have the best value for money, you want to be buying from online, and also you want to be buying pre-owned. That's probably my number 1 tip for collecting manga. 90% of my manga collection is actually pre-owned manga that I've purchased from mainly Facebook Marketplace, but also Gumtree and eBay. In America, you can also use sites like Mercari, and I'm sure there's other ones around the world, but any kind of boot sale / pre-owned site, look up manga, see what you can find. I already mentioned box sets and not buying the singles. This is super important, and at the moment it's kind of difficult to get a hold of box sets, but as you saw in my last video, I actually picked up 2 Dragon Ball box sets. I paid $160 for both, saving myself loads of money on buying the single volumes. So getting box sets like One Piece, Demon Slayer, Tokyo Ghoul is really good for bolstering your collection on a budget. And then the final part of maximizing your value for money is take advantage of sales. If you go into a shop in the UK, at least like Waterstones, you're going to be buying a single volume of manga for anywhere between £8 to £16. However, if you head down to London or any of the other sites in the UK that have a Forbidden Planet store, you can actually take advantage of their 3 for 2 offers, where you're buying 3 books and getting the cheapest one for free. That was a really bad voice crack. As an example, when I was first collecting manga, I actually picked up a couple of volumes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on this 3 for 2 deal, and it meant that I was getting 3 volumes for the price of 2, which once again decreases the amount of money you're paying per volume. Now in the UK, we're at a slight disadvantage because we don't have the amazing website Right Stuff. Link in the description. Now Right Stuff throws sales all year round where you can buy huge amounts of manga for so cheap. Unfortunately for us over in the UK, it costs a little bit more to get them shipped, so the price kind of evens out. But in America, you can get like new series for like $40 for like the whole series, for example Chainsaw Man, and that is a massive saving, and again perfect for if you're collecting on a budget. So make sure you use sales are great. Number 3, now this is a tip that I actually wish I didn't have to say, but the current manga market we're in is a little bit iffy. So number 3 is have patience. Now the main reason to have patience is because at the moment manga is really difficult to get a hold of, and somehow the scalpers from all of of the other collecting communities have crawled their way in to the manga community and are now buying up new volumes of series and selling them at a higher price. Now, this is just taking advantage of the manga industry's current problems with printing the manga themselves and having stock on the shelves. But be patient. Basically, everything that you see here is getting reprinted at the moment. Goodnight Pun Pun, Monster, Berserk, Chainsaw Man, all of this stuff, while I've been collecting, has been out of stock and been reprinted. And all of this stuff I've also had the opportunity to buy at scalper prices. And whilst it might be tempting because you really want that last volume to complete your series, it's not worth paying triple the price when you could wait 3 or 4 more months and then get it for retail. So be patient. Do not fold to the scalpers. I actually implore you, because the more we hold out, the less likely they're going to continue doing this. And I just want to really underline the point that things will get reprinted. There isn't many manga in the current scene of everything that's popular that's going out of print anytime soon. Obviously, 20th Century Boys singles, they're out of print. They're really old. Berserk singles, not so much. And I've seen Vagabond and Blade of the Immortal and Monster in store. All this stuff is coming back. Just be patient. Now, another part of patience is making sure that you hold out on buying a new series, because somewhere in the world on one day there will be one person who is selling the entirety of the series that you want to buy on Facebook Marketplace for very cheap. It's not an impossible thing to think. This Berserk here cost me, I think, £120. That is an insane saving, bearing in mind those volumes are £10 each. And it's all because I waited. I sat and I waited and I checked Facebook Marketplace every single day to try and find the series that I want and to see if someone will list them. Another example, Blade of the Immortal I got from Facebook Marketplace. Vagabond I got from Facebook Marketplace. Pluto was another one that I bought from Facebook Marketplace, all of which massively under retail. So if you're patient, at some point someone will list the manga that you want for the price that you want to pay. You've just got to wait. Tip number 4. And this is a super important one. Space. As you can see behind me, I've got 3 shelves, 2 of which are completely filled with manga. Collecting manga is a hobby that takes up a lot of space. And before you start collecting, or if you are collecting and planning to build your collection, you need to be aware that space is going to be an issue in the future. So my main tips here is to make sure, number 1, you have space to put your current manga. And number 2, you have space to expand your collection. I've got a couple of shelves at the bottom, and I've got space on the end of this wall to get another bookshelf in. I have space to expand. However, when I first started collecting manga around 1.5 years ago, I didn't even live in this house, so I had no space and all of my manga was just sitting in cardboard boxes. That is not the best way to collect manga, because at that point you're buying stuff, it's not getting shown off, and it's sitting in boxes and getting dusty and potentially getting damaged. So with manga, I think you should buy to the space that you have. I don't think you should massively go overboard and buy all this manga that you have nowhere to put it. And it also means that you can trim your manga collection to the series you really love. Speaking of trimming the fat around the series you really love, as a manga collector, I think that everyone needs to understand that it's okay to let a manga go. Now, I am the worst for this, because I've always preached the mentality that when you have a collection, you shouldn't sell stuff, because at some point you're going to want to buy it back. I did this with my 3DS, I did this with some of my PlayStation collection, and I even did it with my manga collection. However, there are times where you do need to trim the fat. At the moment, I have some manga at the bottom of my shelf that I'm getting rid of. It includes Demon Slayer Volume 1 and 2, 5 centimeters per second, Food Wars, and some other assorted manga. And I've decided that I don't want these series in my collection. I may do in the future, but right now they're not complete and I haven't read them, so I'm going to trim the fat. I'm going to remove the things that I don't need in my collection, because number 1, it saves space, 2, it makes me a little bit more money, and 3, it just doesn't need to be there. Trim your collection. Make sure your collection, everything you have, you love or you really want to keep. You don't have to keep stuff just for the sake of it. Another thing with space that I really suck at is buying your manga to read, not to collect. As you can see, I have a load of books and I haven't read all of them. That really bugs me, because I have all this space being held up by a manga that I don't even know if I like. And when people start collecting manga, they tend to jump right in at the deep end and buy loads of series. Exactly what I did. But if you slow yourself down and you buy just to read, you're going to have so much more enjoyment out of your manga. And going back to one of the other tips, you're going to get so much more value for money. If I pay £10 for this volume of Vagabond and I don't read it, all I've done is pay £10 to look at the spine. If I read it, however, I'm getting a certain amount of entertainment out of the pages inside this that I can then reciprocate over time. And I also get to look at the spine. That would be my logic for trying to get the most value for money out of your collection, is buying to read. And once again, it saves space. And the final point I want to make on the space section is you don't have to collect everything physically. If there's a series that you want to read, but you don't necessarily want to collect it, or you don't have the space to collect it, then you can read it on the Shonen Jump app or other assorted apps depending on who the publisher is of your manga. Not everything has to be bought in physical paperback or hardback. I am not the best person to speak to about this. I don't read online at all, and I tend to buy everything that I want to read, but you don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like those other manga collectors. You can read online if you don't have the space. No one's going to judge you for it. Tip number 5, and it's definitely a last but not least: protecting your manga. These collections cost us a lot of money, and you do not want your manga getting damaged or ruined or anything like that, because I'm very passionate about my manga collection. I want it to be looked after the best as possible. Now, the main thing that damages manga is sunlight. It can bleach the pages from a nice pristine white to a more faded yellow. And while some people don't have an issue with this, and I don't particularly have an issue, I can see where you can avoid it as much as possible. This bookcase at the moment is far away from any of the windows in the house. There's no direct sunlight being shone on my bookcase. So what you want to do is just avoid your bookcase, if possible, being in direct sunlight, because it will stop your books getting bleached. Another good bit of advice is to try and make sure your manga collection is away from any rooms that can get damp, for example, a bathroom. If you have condensation coming out of your bathroom and onto your books, then they're going to get warped and they're going to get water damaged. So you want to keep them as far away from that kind of thing as possible. Obviously, if your setup is not possible to keep them away from that, then there's other things you can do to protect them, like putting them in plastic bags. This is like a sin in the manga community at the moment, but you can do it if you need to. You also want to make sure that if you have any pets or anything, that your manga is potentially above their level, if possible. So you don't come home one day to your favorite volume getting ripped to shreds by your dog. This luckily didn't happen to me. Well, this luckily didn't happen to one of my favorite volumes, but there definitely is a manga upstairs that is missing half of its back cover because my dog shredded it. And then my final tip about the protection of your manga is regarding the arrangement of your shelves. If you can see on my shelf, there are actually small gaps between series. And this isn't just to split them up so that you can clearly see where one series ends and another starts. It's actually so that your books have a little bit of breathing room inside the bookcase. If you overstuff your bookcases, the books begin to get warped and they begin to bend where they're getting squished together. So if you have that little bit of space, they have a little bit more space to move, they don't get damaged when you pull them out, and they also aren't getting bent where they're just completely crammed into this small space. Another thing is, if possible, don't stack your books. As you can see, they're all kind of lined together with nothing on top, but if you start putting things on top, depending on the weight of it, it'll actually begin to crush the books downwards, and you really don't want this for your manga collection. And I think that's about it for our top 5 tips. However, I do want to preface one final bit of advice for everyone, and that is enjoy your manga collection. Enjoy collecting, enjoy being a part of this community. Watch videos, share your own collections, share pictures on Twitter or Instagram. Enjoy what you're creating here, because people's manga collections are amazing. They are a form of art, and it's definitely something that you can flex to other people. Don't be too braggy, but at the same time, I love seeing people's manga collections, so don't be too subtle either. Make sure that you become part of the manga community, because it's one of the best communities on the internet. I have had so much fun being a part and speaking to other fellow-minded manga collectors. It's been a freaking blast, and you need to be a part of it too. As always, guys, I want to leave you with a question. What's your number 1 manga collecting tip that I haven't gone over in this video? Leave it down in the comments down below, and whoever gets the best one will get an internet cookie. Don't forget to use my Forbidden Planet, Right Stuff, and Book Depository links down in the description if you want to buy some manga for yourself to build up your collection and to follow some of the tips that I've given you today. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be alerted every single time that I upload. I really hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.